Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. Sunday fun day here in the shop, just a little before 7. Got to see the playoff games I'm most interested in. Got a flood in the shop, got a fan going. Apologies if you hear that. But yesterday, I should say, I think KC Tool 121 was released. It had the Witte ratcheting driver in it. And going back to what I've most recently recorded, we kind of got to a point video-wise where I was like, man, I don't really think I should add something else to it. It dragged the video out another 15-20 minutes. So I kind of teased it, said we would make that a standalone. Since we're doing that, you should know the drill. Anytime you buy from KC Tool, regardless if you spend $1,000 or 10 cents, you get a bit of thanks. It's currently shipping as a number 2 from Vera. $75 will get you the free shipping. $100 will get you the mystery sticker. We're documenting those as we go now. We're going to come in and showcase that one in the next haul. But for this one, it's just sort of a continuation. And with that said, what I want to do to get started with is, I don't know, we'll probably... Yeah, Rainin too many screwdrivers around here. You should just look around, you'd be amazed. And looking at these, some of you might have an idea. If I were to take this away, I don't know that very many of you would. Particularly if we took this driver away. If I was to have that sitting down there with the barcode or a prettier side up, you'd be like, what is that? Some of you might be like, oh, I think that shape looks familiar. This one comes back into the frame. You think, oh, I'd say Felo, but the colors are all wrong. And then when this comes in, you'd be like, well, you had Witte, you had Gedore, you had Vera, but Felo was unique because it kind of had a sculpted handle. I think that's a Felo driver. You'd be 100% correct if you thought this was Felo, if you thought that was Felo, and if you used common sense deductory skills and said that must also be Felo. Other way you would know that's Felo is if you were an OG on the channel. You're going to remember like, hey, that goes way back in time. And one of the first KC tool hauls, right? Once upon a time, Felo kind of had like a very wide assortment of drivers where you sort of picked your price point. Obviously, if you came in with something like this, okay, they're beloved, you're like, yeah, that's the Felo I know. Super squishy, comfy Felo Ergonics, right? Yellow and black, signature colors. And you think, yeah, I would have known that. Here's the deal, and I kind of hit on this as we brought stuff in, sort of like this guy, and you think like, yeah, Felo Ergonics, and you're like, wait, that's not quite what I thought it would look like. Is that an updated Ergonics I was unaware of? No, this is the number 9. If you look right there, number 9. This is the newest handle, at least as best I know from Felo. We showcased that a long time ago, and it sort of kind of did that, okay? So, venerable, beloved wooden handle, still there. Ergonics, still there, but sort of like everything else they had just sort of disappeared. And that's kind of sad because the Frico, as I call them, I'm sure it's pronounced differently, but the red and black, it's subtly different material composition. I kind of like that, and truth be told, like I was thinking of buying sets for work, and they're gone, right? So you're left with this, and you think, oh, it seems like you've shown us some more Felo stuff than that, and yeah, there'd be an answer. This right here, Felo, shortly around the time, I think, of the number 9's introduction, they came out with this, and you're like, well, that's clearly an Ergonics. The other one had a hex bolster too. Throw them down. They like, what did they do? Is one of these like stainless, or they changed the materials, or different tips? Does this tell you anything? You might remember me saying it's like a wasp or the end of a bee. You're thinking like, oh, they took away, I can't believe they would do that. Why would you take away the tip identification? I'm a Vito guy. I have my drivers down. I would just like to know if it's a Slaughter or Phillips before I grab it. It's not what this is. They didn't cheapen that out. They didn't do away with it. That is actually metal. That's right. That is a striking cap. Okay. And if you're thinking like, well, where are you going with this, man? You could have totally just tacked on a screwdriver of some sort to that video. I could have, but it tied in better here. And what ties in better here, you ask? It is Felo's part number 64 $519. The thing will set you back $9.81. Again, everything, if you're new here, timestamps, links. You want to jump around, skip to the main ticket item, revisit it, think, hey, I'm going to go buy that thing. It's all right there for your convenience. This is a 4.5 by 90. What is that going to tell you? What would possibly be 4.5 thing? Is that like a screwdriver, or a flat slotted screwdriver? Is 90 the length of the blade? Well, you figured a lot out over the years with me. And true to form, right out of the bag, we've got lint, we've got dust. One of the highlights of the Freako, the red and black, it was not as bad, not near as bad as this black and yellow. Super, super comfy, very unique on the market, but just an absolute, especially where you live. You know, if you're in moist, which I say this, it's humid as all get out here right now. But I'm relatively in a desert, right? It's windy, it's dusty, it's dirty. That's what I'm in. So these just sit somewhere. You see my mat when I don't shop vac it between every video. It just gets filthy. And I'm relatively clean, but they just attract lint and dust like crazy. But you're thinking like, okay, we'll get to it. So yeah, right there. That tells us what we need to know. There's a hideous barcode. It's like a B, striking cap. What in the world? You're thinking like, whoa. Why would you, what's the point in this? You know, I'd understand if this guy goes in and buys a number 2 Phillips for some testing. So this right here is not going to stay here. You're thinking like, not going to stay here. What are you going to do with it? You know, throw it outside on a board like German tool reviews and see if it rusts? No, it is going to work. The reason for that, as I've told you, you know, I set these things up and I try to get the best match possible, and I put them through heck. I come in, and if you wonder why this Gedore is missing a tip and why this Witte is missing a tip, it's because they broke. And the Witte was a 4.5, wasn't it? No, it was a 4.0. We have to note that. The Gedore was a 3.5. It is really, really, really hard to find this size of a driver, this size flat slotted, whatever you want to call it, with a striking cap in anything, okay, anything at all, let alone German drivers. Now this, if you're thinking like, well, if you had a 3.5 Gedore and you had a 4 from Witte, why don't you get one of those from Felo? As best I know, this is the smallest flat blade they make. It's right here, the 4.5. So if I had those tips, which I think I have them somewhere, this would be a little bit bigger, and that's not good for me. I need as slim and as small as possible. And if you're wondering like, why do you need a striking cap if you're turning something that small? I'm not turning anything with them. I use this to get underneath staples. I've said it for many years. You're thinking like, staples, man, just get like a freaking staple puller or tack claw or something. You gotta think industrial, you gotta think oversized staples, you gotta think a guy that's got a gun in his hand and he doesn't shoot one staple when that's completely not, you know, all that's needed. He shoots like 6. A gun error, operator error, combination of the two, who knows? But I am the one left to deal with it. I'm the one left to fix it, okay, and tear it down. So I come in, I have to uncrate this stuff, unpack this stuff. I have to go through and do that, and I reuse everything I can. Okay, whether it's like junk cardboard that I'm just going to park a leaking forklift on, I'm going to throw nasty parts down on. If it's really good, and I'm going to like pack my own stuff in it. If the pallet or the crate is usable and I want to harvest that, I don't like to rip into something. Sometimes I have to, you know, do a shameful job of it, but then it's left there for me to come back to. Because guess what happens, all right? I drive that pallet out into the shop yard, and then when it's time to ship, or I have to go out and grab something, or, you know, customer orders something and they're going to pick up, and I'm just going to throw it down on a pallet since it's heavy, and I'm going to load it with a forklift that way. Guess who goes and gets the pallet and stabs themselves in the palm of the hand? That would be me. I eliminate that threat by taking the staples out. It's a painstaking process. That's why I use the pincers and these drivers so very much. So you're thinking like, well, what's the deal? You know, these have been here for a long time. Do you not have anything left in commission? I sure do. I've yet to break the Vera. If memory serves me right, it is a 4.5. I most recently added a Stahlvilla, and of course it would be made by Witte. I've not broken it. I that might, the VHAs, oh boy, I do a lot with those, but especially the bigger sizes. I think I was kind of waiting to break either one of those two. The Vera is absolutely torn up, but the tip is intact. And if you're curious what I'm talking about, it would be one of these. If you see yellow and black on Vera, it's not Felo, it's their heavy-duty demo driver type of a deal. If we can dial that in, you're going to see 3.5. You're like, take it to work, put it through heck, break it. The one thing that annoys the ever-living snot out of me with that Vera set is it is not a striking cap. And you're thinking, like, I thought they all were. I'll come over here and grab this one. This is a Phillips, so it's kind of a bad example. Note the difference between these? Yes. I don't know why they include this one in the set. I mean, it's a great driver. I've done a ton with it. But it doesn't have a striking cap. Totally get it. You know, they're afraid you're going to break it. But, like, their mantra on those yellow and black craft form chisel drivers, literally dubbed chisel drivers, not by me, by them. Abuse them. Demo, chisel, everything you're not supposed to do, everything the tool trucks don't sell drivers for and won't warrant, right? That's what those are. That is by far the most used one. It's been out there the longest. It hasn't broken. This one, I think, got an unfair rap. It was doing amazing. Keep in mind, it's also the smallest I've had out there. But then there was a deal. I didn't know it was double stapled through layers. And that's sort of where the tip went, and I felt bad about that, but it is what it is. But yeah, this little guy right here is joining the party. We're gonna see what we can get out of it. I will tell you, again, I don't care, these will never turn a screw. They possibly can turn screws, but it's very highly unlikely. But I wish it came to more of a point. I know it can't with the size confinements and everything. But again, the smaller, the slimmer, the easier it is for me to get under something. Yes, the more likely it is to break, but you have to find a balance between those two. And looking like the balance might be 4.5 so far. I realistically ought to grab another Gedore, size it up, because it's not fair for them for me to break their 3.5 when others don't offer it. To kind of catch my drift. But yeah, this is going to work. And if you think to yourself, man, that was a lot of drivers you brought out for no reason, man. You show us a $10 screwdriver you're ultimately going to use as a sacrificial chisel. And, yeah, but that's not quite where we're going completely. Because we've got some other stuff from Felo. You know, we'll just bring out, have a real good time here. You got this one, you think, whoa, hey, did they define that striking cap on a later revision? Is that what that is? Nope, it's a magnetic bit holder. And if I throw this one down, you're thinking, well, that's going to be a magnetic bit holder. Yes and no, it's a magnetic bit holder with a knurled collar because it's a locking bit holder. And if you're thinking, okay, where does this possibly go from here? Well, how do you make that even better? Especially if you have standard size bits, you get an extended version. And you're still thinking, hey, I don't know where you could possibly go with this. And then we drop this thing in. I believe this is Taiwan based from Handy Twins. This is one of the ones that was like, I got this super early. Might have been the first to buy from KC Tool early. There was like a voluntary recall on these. I guess Felo found like a manufacturing issue, or Handy Twins, or whoever the OEM in Taiwan is, and they pulled them back. You got to send them in, get a new driver. This is an OG. It should be gone, and it's not. Now, caveat, I've gotten several of these really, really, really cheap over the years, and so this one doesn't see all the action. There was a time I was using this a ton because it was just so kind of unique and different. This is a Vera bit in it, but basically we can come in and you've got 90 degree, you've got 45, you've got your dead on for straight down or straight up, straight forward, you got your 45 this way, and you got your 90 this way. Basically, that's the 5 positions you would want in a, what would be locking. It's not just free form where it would kind of flop or anything. Like, this is locked in. This is kind of clunky, you know, having a knob that big, but it works very well. Case in point, right here, I'm going to go back to middle, press down, next detail. You get the idea, right? Now, keen eyes have probably noticed right there that there's sort of one of those funky little arrows, and you're thinking like, oh, it ratchets, but it's not turning. Is it broken? I have noticed this one in particular has started to sound a little Harbor Freightish. Okay, so very well aware this could go, but like I said, it did get pretty good use there right when it was brand new from me once we'd introduced it. But yeah, that kind of is a little concerning, the gear sounds we're experiencing at this stage of its life. But aside from collecting a ton of lint, it's been good. And like I said, I have a couple of others. These aren't anything new now. They've been out, I don't even know, probably a couple of years. But it's here for a reason. You might have picked one up on Tool of the Day, on a seasonal, some clearance sale. There could have been the kits. You might be like, man, I feel like I've seen that and nearly bought it, but it was in like an L-box. Yeah, they do that too. So they sell L-box. I think there's multiple L-box sets with this thing, and you can get some really cool sets. I would have gone that route, but I'd already bought standalone. And it's here, and you're thinking to yourself, what a buildup. Why? Like, what could possibly come? You've kind of walked us through some now obsolete, not in production. I love the wood handle, striking cap. You got the ergonic striking cap, bit holders, ratcheting, combination hybrids. Where else does one go? You're like, idiot, that's not Felo, that's Gedore. It's blue, it's black and blue. Wait, or is it Felo? Does look like Felo. Definitely looks like Felo. Is it Gedore? I know you made a video on something like this, but was it Gedore or is it actually Felo? Just kind of dial that in and focus. And focus, there we go. It is Gedore, you say, number 169 in Germany. Some of you are like, oh wait, I remember this. It's the one that accidentally, yeah. That's this one. And you're thinking like, okay, well, I remember this guy now. He was saying like, pretty sure Felo would be the OEM on this, and I still stand by that. I think this video's out. Don't hold me to it. I think it is. I feel like it was filmed before the Witte ratcheting driver, but we've got this guy, and you got to admit, like, that looks like a Felo Ergonics, does it not? We'll just come in and grab this guy for comparison's sake. You can't deny the similarities there, right? So good old Gedore is like, you know, hey, maybe we should have a bit holding driver with bits, but you know, we don't want to do that. We'd have to tool it up. Would we really make money? Let's ease our way in. Well, Felo does it, right? Or do they? You're sitting here and you're like, wait a second, you've thrown, none of these have bits, do they? Was that what one of these little hex things meant? Nope, nope, this is just a fixed handle with a hanging hole, right? So where do we go from here? All right, well, we're going to set that down and we're going to turn around and we're going to grab this. You're like, whoa, hey, I remember that one. You know, that's that one that'll just shoot out the bits, isn't it? Well, let's find out. Indeed it is. I put my finger there so we wouldn't have to go chasing bits. That is a Witte ratcheting driver. And then we're going to throw this down from Hazet. And it's SilentGEAR, and then back behind me, we've got a Gedore iteration of it. So now, if you piece all of this together, where could we possibly be going with what you've just seen? Well, if you're thinking something more expensive and something that holds bits and something that ratchets and something that does all that from the Felo lineup, congratulations, you win. What's your prize? The satisfaction of knowing you're correct. And part number is going to be F52223. Again, that is F52223. This is from Felo. It is their magazine handle ratcheting bit holder. These are available in several configurations. This one will be slotted posi Phillips. 8 total pieces. Price point $39.33. Got a length of 181 millimeters. Now, I will tell you, when you see this, you're going to think, hey, you know, that's interesting, but I might like something like the Gedore in my beloved Pittsburgh Penguin, Pittsburgh Steeler, Pittsburgh Pirate, black and yellow college of your choice colors. Wish they offered that as a gateway. They do. I jumped right to this, in part because I have the Gedore. That was like a bucket list item for forever. Then they expanded the Felo catalogs, and I'm like, oh, you know, shame I didn't wait a couple more months, right? But I'd waited years at that point in time, so it's okay. Right here, though, Felo, made in Germany. They're going to say 9 pieces. I'm sure that like includes the driver. And if you think, hey, that looks really familiar, it should. We just showed you the same thing with Gedore. You got the Felo 374. This is 8 in 1. Again, 4 bits here, 4 bits there. Right here, what does that arrow tell us? Is it ratcheting? It sure is. Doing the English translations in non-bold font, we have with ratchet, multifunctional, ergonomic, and then it's got 8 professional bits, C 6.3 by 25 millimeters. This is a magazine handle. It's kind of rare that I have anything boxed from Felo, so I'm pretty happy with this, but this is very important. This is very, very important because, again, if you're like, I'm not throwing $40 at a ratcheting driver that I don't know anything about, there's gateways. If you love the Felo handle, but you're like, I don't know about that bit magazine, you can jump in for slightly less, see if it's an issue, see if it's going to come open. Maybe the way you hold the driver, it won't. You've got the number 373. This is kind of akin to a retractable blade driver. I want to say it'll be smaller. You can type that in, search for yourself, so I don't tell you wrong. 374 is this one here that's going to ratchet, and then the 376 is just an extended length bit holder. Think again along the lines of this guy right here, which you can see a little bit better when we pan out. Backside, we'll be zooming back in, won't we? You have ergonomic handle. Again, this is going to be Felo's classic texture and feel, with telescopic magazine and magnetic fixtures, clear arrangement of bits, and comfortable pick. I assume they mean like ability to get them out or the grip. I'm not sure, something might have been lost in translation. They say it's a strong ratchet that can sustain 35 Newton meters, and a 1/4 inch bit holder with strong magnet for a secure hold. All right. Felo, if you're not familiar, they have a 15-year warranty. That's good, because you very well may break this. Have I played with this? No, I have not. It has not been unboxed. This is virgin. I'll be taking it out for the first time right in front of you, just like I like it. I will tell you right now, I kind of have questions of if it's really made in Germany. Oh, wow. This is nice. Okay, so good presentation here. I have to wonder aesthetically, and I might be a dork for saying this, I kind of think a yellow tinted cap would have been super cool. Like, you're thinking like yellow, who would want clear bonehead? Well, look at this. One of the coolest things aesthetically, and just like something that has appealed to me for all those years I waited to buy this Gedore, because this thing was expensive. Like, I'd always wanted it. I'm like, I'm not paying $69 for that thing. You know, this guy right here. And if you recall, you're like, how did you get it? Was it tool of the day? I believe I got it on like the Black Friday deal, and I gave up on it ever being tool of the day. And what's my reward? Well, a few months later, the Felo iteration of this is available for probably half the price. Go figure. But one of the things that was so cool to it, aside from the color scheme, which I love, was that is a blue cap. Like, if this was a clear cap like the Felo, it wouldn't look as cool. Functionally the same. It's either going to annoy you or not be a problem, but like, that just looks cool. Okay, the translucent blue, I personally love it. This right here, I'm not like opposed to it. It sort of looks almost like a gear afterburner rocket ship type of a thing, but I think a yellow tint similar to that would just be chef kiss perfection from an aesthetic standpoint. All right, so right there, it's the 374. This is 1/4 by 35. You got your Felo made in Germany. Again, look at the lint fresh out of the box. That's not for me. It just comes that way. No, oh, there we go. Inadvertently opening already. I'll tell you right now, this is not quite as golly. Okay, so issues abound, do they not? Not quite as comfortable as what I was hoping. You can see a lot of the downsides here right off the bat, unfortunately. I'm just gonna shut that. We lost 4 or 5 of the bits. I don't really even know, but you know, 3 of them are still in there. Neither time that opened was it intentional. The first time it was accidental and we caught it. The second time completely caught me off guard, and we just barfed bits down below. So this, though, could be something you explore. Again, after seeing that, you might hide from this type of design. Again, I really do think for a lot of people, you know, if you're a traditional spin up here type of a person, I think you're going to accidentally trigger it. I don't know how frequently. If you're somebody that works top down, I could see it happening all the time. The only benefit, I think you're less likely to have the bits spill out if you're a top down person, because your hand is going to be there, and if they do eject, it's not going to be down and out, it's going to be up, and they'll have to overcome more initial inertia upward to basically reach a point of equilibrium at which they would fall down as gravity takes over and assumes its natural course in life, right? So I don't try to make things look bad, I try to make things look nice and cool, but I'm also honest, and I think that is a bit of an issue, pun intended. So this thing, absolutely ridiculous, right? Just shoots out like crazy. It makes you appreciate, I hate to say it, like the old school, just dump the bits and screw a cap on. Guess what they don't do? They don't accidentally pop open and chuck 8 bits at you, right? I will say, though, $40 isn't bad. If you can get this on tool of the day or a sale of some sort, could very well be worth pursuing. However, if we come in here, this is what I'm going to bring it up to my face to save time. There's not what I was looking for, but on this backside, and this is kind of interesting, you've got your Felo oriented like this. I'm very big on clocking things. A lot of people aren't. But you've got your Felo, your branding. I would love to see something that's like center, tight, loosen, right? You know, if I go 180 degrees, not 90, but the full 180 right here, that's when we get into the dot and the arrow. So yes, this does have a center lockout. It's not the tightest thing I've ever seen. I'm going to click over, click back, click over, click back. Very positive. If you're in a hurry, I could see you skipping over, but I don't think you're going to have much issue. There's a nice dexterity there, outside of like super crazy antifreeze oil. I don't think you're going to have much trouble. Ratchet mechanism, this is the big one. Kind of disappointing, not quite as fine as you might have hoped, you know. Ratchets, you know, you constantly have this evolution, you know, like 72, 80, 90, you know, 120, 100, back to 90, back to 72, but it's even better than it was before. Don't really see that with ratcheting drivers, right? If I had to guess, and I do, oh gosh, that just scares the snot out of you. So if I had to guess, we'd be very lucky if that was 36 teeth. It's probably even coarser than that. Now, the good news is that could make this quite strong. I will also say, on a positive note, there's not, usually when you have something this, like, egregiously antiquated, you know, or like modern design that way, not going for like a high tooth count, it's super sloppy. Like, I'd make my turn and then you'd see my thumbnail go like this before we catch and click again. This one, there's not a lot of lash in it. Like, it's just pretty much right there on it again. And that is a saving grace, because if it was that coarse and had slop in it, it would really suck. This is kind of, again, it might actually be a solid mechanism minus the coarse tooth, right? So if you are accustomed to the Hazet, if you're accustomed to the Gedore SilentGEAR, very quick, if you have anything high tooth count that you like, this is different. I kind of wondered, we're getting close to timing out here, I kind of wondered if this was made in Taiwan. Not so much the bit holder, the magazine, any of that, the handle, but the ratchet mechanism forward. I kind of wonder. It's listed on the site as Germany. Again, Americans have a much more like stringent country of origin policy. It's so coarse though, it could be old school. Alright, we timed out there and it looked like a hurricane happened. It was me hunting for the bits because as I was refilling the carousel, guess what happened? You'll never believe it, yeah. So, I don't know that I went over the bit assortments, and it's going to be way easier to shove this in your face than attempt to go bit by bit in the magazine. So 8 bits, C63, 2.25 millimeter, standard size. Slotted, you got a 4.0, a 5.5, a 6.5. Phillips, this is kind of cool. You got a 0, a 1, and a 2. Would have been neat to have a number 3 in there, but instead we got a number 1 and a number 2 posi. Again, great thing with anything like this, regardless of the brand, regardless if it's great, you hate it, or if it's junk, you swap the bits. If I want to fill this thing with number 2 Phillips, if I want to fill this thing with the Phillips assortment from multiple kits, I can do that. If I want Torx in there, I can make that happen. Whatever, if I want a Robertson in there, boom, you do you, all right? You're home free. But what I was doing, I kind of took a gander at it while we were away, and I'm just going to go ahead and lock that down. Other direction now. Going to turn the shaft back towards you. I mean, it's pretty, you can tell it's coarse, right? But it's not terrible. If I just have this squared with the camera, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I feel like we would have been 20. I think I had it squared up as best I can. Could be a little slop, could be me moving my hand inadvertently. We'll call it 20 revolutions. That's kind of where I was guessing on this thing, 20-ish, you know. Which, like I said, the pro to that, you're not going to break it. Okay, if we come in here with this little micro ratchet from Titan, you can tell when you hear that, you're like, whoa, that's nice compared to this. Yeah, this is a different world comparatively, but guess what's going to be stronger? This clunk. Okay, so there's a sweet balancing point that you've got to figure out, and it might be application dependent. You might love this thing when you're straight on or doing dash work. You might hate it if you're going down in a panel or an electronic device, right? That's why it's nice to have options. It's why it's nice to experiment with different brands. Who knows, you know, Felo might have been like, hey, we could put a killer ratchet mechanism in here, case in point. Since this is Felo, that is a very fine tooth, right? Comparatively. Yes, I mean, it's an audible difference, okay? So, pros and cons both ways, but what I was kind of struck by, the bits are very nice. I have no doubt the bits are, in fact, 100% made in Germany by Felo. The ratchet very, very well could be. Being coarser action, I kind of think it's more likely that it is. You get a very nice Phillips 2 designation. When I picked all these up, I examined them. They're very well done. Typically, on Felo bits, you can see the machining even. They are very, very nice bits in my opinion. Now, coming in, I have not checked this side by side. When I was collecting the bits, I moved the fan, I collected bits. I didn't do the comparison that I want to do right now. I'm going to carefully turn that. This is a very aggressive spring. I'm going to just try to kind of demonstrate it, like super happy to be freed from its prison, right? This, if you call it the umbrella, like you'll note as it comes up, it reaches like a point and then it stops, but there's like another spring that just sort of rides up that center yellow shaft. In my opinion, and again, I haven't played with that Gedore much, but this is still cumbersome. I would not call that, you know, easy or enjoyable to get out. But I kind of wonder if that doesn't lift higher than the Gedore. I'm going to open that thing up carefully. Let me brace yourself here. Okay. Nope, I was wrong. And again, those are Gedore bits, you know, to their credit. So they both lift up the same. Okay, so that's fine. I'm okay with that. Now, I get why you would want it recessed at this point. This isn't about the Gedore, this is about the Felo. I get why you would want this little, if I pull this out, you essentially are looking at like the barrel of a gun, right? In this case, it's the barrel of a driver that's inadvertently going to come open and shoot bits at you. But I get why you would want that recessed. If it inadvertently does come open, the bit is going to have to work its way off the edge. However, if you think back to that Gedore video when I mentioned I'd had this idea, why is that not falling? I've clearly evacuated the holster there. Why will this not fall? Are the other bits hanging on to it for dear life? They've been traumatized? No, it's a magnet. All right, so that center pole is magnetic. Case in point, you can kind of see as I make revolutions here. Not the strongest in the world, but it does help some. So it's kind of an annoyance getting the bit out, in part because I don't just get to come in and nest it. I have to sort of go in, clock it, and go down, and then hope that you plan it right so you can shut the bit carousel. It's a super cool design. Again, I told you in that Gedore video, like, I kind of had an idea very similar to this before I knew this existed. You sort of have to say, would I just prefer a cap that threads on? Like, I'm talking 3-5 threads, not something that I accidentally opened it. 3 to 5 threads, like a cheap old driver, like a Snap-on, whatever, with bits dumped in there that I then pour out. I will admit, this is much easier to turn around and see, like, oh, there's my number 1 Phillips I need for this. It's a win there. The fact that when it spins around, that's a win. There's a lot of neat stuff about this, but I feel like it's going to be a potential annoyance more than it is something that you would appreciate from a mechanical functionality standpoint, right? Aesthetically, especially, again, if that was a yellow tint, this would look stupid cool, like super, super, super cool. If you're curious why I didn't buy a Gedore ratcheting one, I don't know one existing. That's the only thing in KC Tooler. I totally would have had that on the bucket list. And it would be really neat because then I could compare the ratchet mechanism and be like, okay, hey, one of these is way different than the other. What's going on? And we'd sort of investigate there. But for 40 bucks, you got a fixed driver. Again, you can totally put any length bit in here. It's going to be standard. It'll be magnetic. There's no locking collar, so it's just magnetic. If I can find our token L key here. Ready? It'd help if I could go in place there. Surprisingly strong. Stronger than you would think. I'm just going to quickly, if you're thinking like, why did you bring these out? This is why. I wanted a comparison. Okay, that sounds way more impressive. And I'm going to say for good reason, I think this magnet is significantly stronger. And no, that's not based off of the stronger sound. It's me having to do that, okay? So, if we come in here and kind of get the best of both worlds... Wait, that doesn't have a magnet. I'll be. It's been a while since I played with those, my apologies. So there is no magnet here. Interesting. Same thing here. Yeah, okay, well, there you go. Usually the companies will double up on that, but not the case here. But I almost think this would be better without bit storage or with a different style of bit storage. Yet at the same time, doing that takes away what's cool about this, like what sets it apart aesthetically. I'm going to 100% intentionally open this, but pull back quickly. Not bad, right? But the problem is, you know, you're going to be there and ratcheting, and how many times are you going, especially like when you come in and you're turning with force in the right direction, it just makes it that much more likely to pop open. I absolutely know what they're going for. I understand it. I think it would be awesome. I just think there has to be like a better way to execute it to avoid what would be like a massive, massive hassle. You know what I mean? I will shoot an email off to Colin and try to find out if this is in fact like a German ratchet or Taiwanese or something else. The fact that it's coarse kind of makes me think it could be legit. It's finished out a little different than you would typically see. We come in and grab our other star of the show. I don't know. I don't want to speculate without knowing. Feel free to leave your guesses down below. You're getting a really nice bit. You're getting a pretty comfortable handle. It's just the fear of incidentally triggering that to open and then losing bits. Especially, like if I lose them here at the workbench, not a big deal. If I'm sitting there working on a panel, it's a problem. I'm going to have to now go and fish out and extract bits, okay? Think of what you do and where you would be wanting to use this and go worst case scenario and say, do I want to risk it? And you very well may want to, again, especially like if you get this on tool of the day, I'm just going to guess it would be like in the 19 to 25 range. I'd take a flyer on it. I think it's a pretty good little driver. Again, especially maybe you've got like some high tooth ratcheters and you're constantly taxing them and stripping them out, right? This might be what you need. Kind of interesting on this guy that there's not a additional, there's no stubby, there's no like extended length. You kind of think there might have been something a little bit longer. We're going to grab the old Starrett here. And it's basically just under 2 inches. Don't know if you can tell. There you go. Just inside of 2 inches on the shaft. Would a 3 or a 4 have been better or more conducive for more environments? I don't know. I think this would be nice to have in the lineup, but I think maybe having a 3 to 5 inch shaft longer option and maybe something a little stubbier, you know, like right about here, you know, bit holder even maybe recessed in. Just a thought. Every application is different. I want to love this, but it's really hard because if I'm having stuff go wrong on the bench, what's going to happen when I'm actually using this? And it's just going to be something I have to use and find out and be prepared for. Now, if you're only going to turn, if you know what you do and you only turn number 2 Phillips, have your bit installed, have one spare in the carousel. Don't stockpile it, you know, with 8 additional bits. Put one in there. And then if it does pop open, you've eliminated some likelihood of losing the bit. You also only have to fish one out. That, however, takes away from the coolness and the functionality. Like if you could sit here and you just ratchet, wear the bits out, I'd like to have the full capacity, right? You know, you don't want one in the chamber and you have to stop and reload like Barney Fife. You want to be able to burn through the whole clip, and you can't do that if the rest of the clip is empty. You kind of follow my drift there. So kind of on the fence, but not egregiously high, especially on sale. I'll try to get information on if this is like truly Felo Germany did the ratchet mechanism, or if it's sort of a hybridized thing, or Germany, Taiwan. We'll figure it out, but I'm just kind of indifferent. I would advise you, in my official opinion, to proceed cautiously, right? Be aware of the known issue that I've demonstrated inadvertently here twice. Okay, 3 times, you know, if you count the one that was demonstrated inadvertently with the camera off. But be leery of it, but also think of the pros, think of the cons, weigh it out, factor in the price, compare it to your other options, and make your own decision, right? So, with that said, there we go. That's why I didn't stick this on the end of the last tool haul, because I want to spend some time on it. I think it's cool, it's neat, it's sort of a tie-in with all of this and the Gedore, sort of a, you know, hybridization there. I'm really interested in knowing if that's German or Taiwan. And again, it's the coarseness of it that makes me question it. However, I've got a lot of really cheap ratcheting drivers from Taiwan that are coarse. So it's kind of hard for me to kind of deduce and narrow it down. But with that said, I want to know your thoughts. What do you do with tiny slotted striking caps? Are they only used on, I don't know, like hinge screws or something? Or are you like me and they become your go-to demolition tool? Similarly, if you picked up this guy at some point, whether tool of the day or way back in the day, have you grenaded one? Did you know there was the Rica? And that, I mean, this goes back years at this point. So I think an email went out if you purchased it, type of a thing. And Felo 100% no hassle to you, made everything right. I just was like, hey, I'm gonna keep it and see what happens. So you can kind of tell, again, especially if you had this new I think this one's getting a little worse for the wear there, but you can easily tell the finite difference between the fine tooth ratchet mechanism and the coarse tooth mechanism. You've got sort of a couple of options there from Felo: locking, 5 points. Fine tooth, you've got sort of a coarser tooth, fixed, kind of unique 2-inch shaft type of a thing. For some people, this length of 2 inches could be a selling point. Standard 100mm 4-inch shaft is ridiculously oversized. The stubbies, you're going to run into this and you're like, that is perfect, I'm buying it, I don't care about the carousel thing. If it annoys me, I'll rip it off and throw it to the side. The good news is, well, Felo, you saw it right here, 15 years, their words, not mine. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued by it, but I'm also a little leery of it. So let me know your thoughts. If you're curious, like, have I used that Gedore much? The answer is no. So I can't really speak on it. I think I turned like 2 screws, and I had a pop once. 50-50, looks stupid cool, like I said, so it's got that going for it. But yeah, if you bought one of these handy twin ratcheting 5-point indexing, how has that held up? Did you get it standalone or as a kit? Similarly, some of you might have jumped on this. What are your thoughts? You might have the Gedore after my video. What have you experienced? Is like, man, I thought it was going to be a total problem and it's only opened once, or I've never had it open. Tell people. Tell them what you do, issues, good or bad. The end goal, believe it or not, is to help people out. And with that said, I'm going to check this text, see if I got time for another video, go move the fan underneath the toolbox to sop up that puddle, and call it a night here. So you know the drill. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you do that, you ring the bell, you jump your charger across the creek, you crash down, the glove box opens up, and one of your Felo ratcheting drivers rolls out without spilling the bit carousel. YouTube just might let you know I got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. If you want more action, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. Again, Wednesday, Saturday. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a little something. Most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.